Well, dozens of police officers equipped with shotguns and assault rifles have stormed an apartment building in Miami, Florida. They used weapons against local Occupy Wall Street protesters who were illegally residing inside. The activists moved into the building last month after their previous encampment outside the city government building was shut down. As Marina reports, there's a failure among the US and its allies to practice what they preach when it comes to freedom and human rights.
The U.S. and its European allies have many things in common: security, politics, and a familiar practice of scolding outsiders about the pillars of democracy.
The Iranian people have a universal right to assembly and free speech.
This is the increasing suppression of human rights and of democracy, and is a big step backwards for Iran.
Democracy, rule of law, human rights, these are our values, and we believe these must be respected by the Egyptian authorities.
In Russia, we've seen crackdowns on civil society groups.
As Western leaders wag their finger around the world, wooden batons and brutal force have been used to quell public protest at home. Riot police, handcuffs, and iron fists have repeatedly been used against unarmed demonstrators in Greece, Spain, and London, where thousands fled the streets to protest against austerity measures and unemployment.
They should focus on getting their own houses in order and practice what they preach, rather than nosing about in other countries and trying to, grandstand on an international scale, rather than deal with, their own very serious democratic deficits.
As public anger continues to be inflamed, UK officials may fight public fire with a barrage of water cannons, which senior Scotland Yard officials are reportedly trying to get hold of, along with taser stun guns and tear gas to break up unruly or unwanted crowds. On the other side of the Atlantic, uprisings against economic inequality and corporate greed have left countless Occupy Wall Street activists covered in blood, temporarily blinded, and behind bars. The movement is currently planning to draw tens of thousands of demonstrators to the upcoming G8 and NATO summits in May. But this week, the U.S. military is unveiling its latest non-lethal weapon to members of the press.
It felt like opening up an oven door, almost mixed with a sting from about my sternum to my neck.
The new active denial system can repel crowds using an invisible electromagnetic beam that delivers a blast of intense heat up to 1 kilometer away. Without a sound, a smell, or even a warning, the weapon promises to disperse crowds and reinforce security. While the military weapon isn't currently intended to be used by police, critics say ray guns, like water cannons, could eventually be rolled out in the land of the free.
We're seeing an intensification of repression because people are challenging the system. They're challenging it in Europe, they're challenging it in the United States. And it's easy for our leaders to point the fingers somewhere else rather than take responsibility here in America, do anything differently.
Lecturing others on democracy and human rights has become a brand of Western foreign policy, a discourse that claims to be based on the highest of standards. But as recent years has shown, it's a lot easier to scold others when everything is fine at home. Mace protesters in Oakland or injured students in Europe might suggest that their leaders do a bit more homework before attempting to be a teacher of democracy. Marina Portnaya, RT, New York.